Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a story that, well, it shines a very literal light on one of the darkest chapters in industrial history. This is the story of the Radium Girls. So picture this. It's the roaring 20s. You're a young woman and you've just landed the job of a lifetime. The pay is amazing, the work feels glamorous, and it comes with this bizarre, enchanting perk. When you clock out and leave the factory at night, you literally glow in the dark.
See, the secret ingredient was this incredible new element, radium. This fine, glowing powder they used to paint watch dials got everywhere. It settled in their hair, dusted their clothes, so when they walked home through the dark streets, they'd shimmer, almost like ghosts. They were nicknamed the Ghost Girls. Some even thought it was fun to paint their nails or even their teeth with the stuff for a night out. They were the envy of the whole town.
But that magical glow, it was hiding a terrifying secret. The very element that made these women shine was about to start eating them alive from the inside out. So the question is, how did this dream job become an absolute waking nightmare? This is the haunting story of the Radium Girls. It's a tale of corporate greed, a deadly conspiracy of silence, and a group of women who, even as their own bodies were failing them, fought for a legacy that protects every single one of us to this day. Welcome to Veiled Histories. All right, so to really get how a tragedy like this could even happen, we have to go back to a time when radium wasn't seen as a killer. It was seen as a miracle. In the early 20th century, people were obsessed with radium. I mean, totally obsessed. After Marie and Pierre Curie discovered it, it was hailed as a cure for, well, everything. You'd see these wild headlines in the newspapers promising it could cure cancer, even extend your life to 100. The public had no idea just how dangerous it was. And this just gives you a taste of how nuts the radium craze got. Companies were putting it in everything. You could buy face creams with radium in them for a healthy glow. There was radium butter, radium toothpaste, even radium jock straps. Seriously, the rich would drink radium water as a health tonic, believing it was like liquid sunshine that would make them young again. It was pure energy, a source of life. So against this backdrop of radium mania, getting a job as a dial painter was like hitting the jackpot, especially for a young working-class woman. This wasn't just any factory job. It was considered elite. It was clean, kind of artistic, and the pay was incredible, more than 3 times what you'd make at a normal factory. For these women, it meant independence. It was a ticket to a better life. But the glamour of that job, the thing that made it so special, concealed a simple, fatal routine. A set of instructions that would end up sealing their fate. You see, to get the brush tip just right for those tiny numbers on the watch dials, the women were taught to use their lips to bring it to a fine point. They called it the lip, dip, paint routine. Lip, dip, paint, over and over. And with every single watch face they painted, they were swallowing a tiny dose of poison, all while their bosses told them the paint was completely harmless. And that reassurance from the company, it was a deadly lie. They told the women, oh, don't worry, the radium will just pass right through your system. But the reality was way more sinister. You see, radium is chemically a lot like calcium. So when they swallowed it, their bodies didn't flush it out. Instead, the body mistook it for calcium and absorbed it directly into their bones. With every lick of that brush, their own skeletons were slowly but surely becoming radioactive. And then the symptoms began. The first signs were just horrifying. The women started suffering from terrible anemia, their bones would fracture for no reason, but the most infamous condition, the one everyone came to fear, was called radium jaw. The constant alpha radiation coming from inside their own bodies was causing their bones to decay. Their jaws would get these awful tumors, become incredibly brittle, and in some cases just literally rot away. So as more and more of these young women started getting sick with these bizarre, gruesome symptoms, the company that hired them didn't step up to help, no. Instead, they launched a cold, calculated cover-up. This timeline just reveals a chilling pattern of denial. In 1922, the first dial painter, a woman named Amelia Maggia, died a horrible death. What did the company do? They paid a doctor to lie on her death certificate, blaming it on syphilis to destroy her reputation and hide the real cause. Then, 2 years later, they actually commissioned a study from a Harvard professor, Cecil Drinker. He confirmed how dangerous the radium was and found every single worker was contaminated. The company's response? They buried the report. They flat out lied to the Department of Labor, saying every girl is in perfect condition. Just think about that statement. It's staggering in its dishonesty. The chemists in the lab were using lead screens and tongs to handle this stuff, but the company was telling these young women it was safe enough to put in their mouths. They knew the risks. They absolutely knew. They just didn't care. The company was basically just betting on these women dying before the truth could ever come out. And, if you believe these kinds of veiled histories need to be brought into the light, please take just a second to support our channel. Liking this explainer and hitting subscribe ensures we can keep uncovering the stories that time has tried so hard to bury. But the company totally underestimated the courage of these women. Led by a dial painter named Grace Fryer, a small group decided they had to fight back, even as they were literally running out of time. I mean, their legal battle was an uphill climb from day one. They were so sick they couldn't even sit up on their own. They had to be physically carried into the courtroom. And U.S. Radium's lawyers, they used every dirty trick in the book to delay the trial because they knew their clients were dying. They were literally trying to wait for the plaintiffs to die. But their story got out. It caught the attention of the press. A crusading journalist named Walter Lippmann wrote this absolutely blistering editorial in the New York World, and it changed everything. Public outrage just exploded. The media started calling them the Radium Girls, and suddenly, the company had nowhere left to hide. And then came the final damning piece of evidence that sealed the company's fate. To prove the case once and for all, their lawyer had the body of Amelia Maggia, the very first girl who died, exhumed. And when they took her remains into a dark room, her bones still glowed. 5 years after her death, the radium was still there, still glowing. There was just no denying it anymore. So, faced with this undeniable proof and the fury of the public, U.S. Radium was finally forced to settle. The women each got $10,000 plus a small pension for as long as they lived, which for most of them wasn't very long at all. It was such a small amount of money for a life cut short by such a painful, preventable disease. But their fight was never really about the money. It was about getting the truth out there. Their real victory is a legacy that protects millions of us. Their court case established the right of individual workers to sue their employers for getting sick on the job. The public outcry led directly to new safety standards and, eventually, the creation of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. And the data they gathered from studying their bodies pushed our understanding of radioactivity forward, saving countless lives, including a whole new generation of dial painters who worked during World War II, but this time under much, much safer conditions. The story of the Radium Girls is just this tragic, powerful reminder that the workplace safety rules we all kind of take for granted today didn't just appear out of thin air. They were fought for. They were earned through incredible suffering. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? How many of the protections we rely on every day were written in the blood of workers who came before us?